Hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy nearly end of June. Hard to believe that we are now almost officially halfway through the year and that the 4th of July is next Friday.
That is crazy. But hopefully it's early enough in the day that you won't hear fireworks going on in the background while we record.
Yeah, we've been hearing them in our area probably the last week or so, I want to say. Fireworks have been going off.
Yeah, and for those of you who might live, I grew up in Southern California where you never had fireworks because they'd start a brush fire. But here in Nebraska, it's a lot of fun. People put on a good show. Even though
it's illegal in Omaha, it still happens.
Yes, it does.
Anyway, thank you for everyone joining. Howdy. And we'll go over a few deals. Nothing new really from last week. Same YouTube TV deal that's running through the end of the month for $60 for the first 2 months. Fubo's off $20 off for the first month on Pro and Elite. DirecTV still at $10 off to $40 off their plans. And Sling is still half off for the first month with a free month of AMC Plus.
So, that's awesome. Yeah.
So we're going to get started today with an interesting back and forth we saw between a New York Times opinion piece and Alex Sherman from, I believe he's with CNBC, on our sports. Is it too expensive to be a sports fan now? And about last week, there was an interesting piece that with a eye-popping headline, $4,785. That's how much it costs to be a sports fan now. And I knew I had to read it. It was a very interesting read. And the author, June Lee, who's a Boston native, just derided how streaming has changed or made it far more difficult for fans to watch or get all of the games of their favorite team. He uses his personal example, saying in 2004, a hardcore Boston fan would have spent around $1,321 to follow his or her favorite team. That included tickets, TV access, and merchandise. Today, that costs $4,785. That's a 262% jump. Wages in that same stretch have increased by 87%. There are a few telling things here. He's including tickets, which that's a completely separate discussion, but as someone who goes to sporting events, tickets have undeniably gone up in price. Sportico reports that ticket pricing has increased more than 25% between October 2022 and 23, and between May 23 and this year, they've risen another 21.7%. That's the biggest jump of any category tracked by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So that's undeniable. Ticket prices have gone up. He also includes the ability to access every single game of a team. And he's a Red Sox fan, and he wants to watch all 162 games, plus get merchandise. No matter how you shake it, getting that many games is going to be expensive, and how many people are going to watch every single game. He goes on to show every service he signs up for to watch sports. He says that he subscribes to nearly every service there is with live sports: YouTube TV, MLB TV, NBA League Pass, Sunday Ticket, Peacock, Apple TV Plus, Max, Amazon Prime, and Paramount for just over $2,600 a year. We would question some of his numbers because we know that there are ways to get deals on some of those, such as getting promos, bundling options, and the like. However, his main argument is that what has really happened, what's going on, is that it's ripping apart the fabric of America, and that families and fans can no longer get around the TV to enjoy those big events. We don't really agree with those points, and here's why. It's vastly overlooking that for years, non-sports fans had cable and were forced to subsidize ESPN and RSNs, even if they didn't watch them, and add that number, and that's going to be huge for people that didn't care about sports. Second, ratings show that people watching the big sporting events aren't down, they're actually increasing or are stable over the years. Alex Sherman, who wrote a very good rebuttal in his weekly newsletter, said that the big marquee sporting events actually don't look all that different from 15 years ago, despite cable losses. Super Bowl has set all-time highs for viewership in back-to-back years. Stanley Cup ratings have been, for the past 3 years, been similar to 15 years ago. NBA Finals ratings look pretty similar to what they looked like from 2003 to 2010. Last year's MLB World Series had the highest ratings in 7 years. Third, it misses the point that those who want to get live sports can find ways to do so without being forced into an expensive cable bill or live TV service. For example, someone could subscribe to the new ESPN service and throw in a Peacock or Paramount Plus and get a lot, not everything, but a lot for $40 to $50-ish a month. But the key point here is if you want to watch most games from every major sport, it is going to be expensive. And all that to say, streaming is by no means perfect. It absolutely is not. There are some changes that need to take place to improve it. But there's almost always a way to get a game, and you have the convenience of watching it how you want, whether it's on your TV, phone, device. And if you don't want it, then you don't have to pay for it, generally speaking. The real issue here, in our opinion, is what are the media companies and leagues going to do in the near future? Study after study is showing that younger viewers don't want to pay a lot of money to get live sports. They're happy watching highlights on social media during the game that people post or soon after the game, and many are going to be satisfied with that. And that is a different topic, but that is going to be an issue that leagues and the services are going to have to address. And one thing that we did like from Lee's article was there was his recommendation for the government, and we don't see this happening, but that the government to build a free streaming app that makes the basic broadcast networks. So he has the 4 major ones, and then included PBS, Univision, and the CW available to anyone with internet access. That's built on something like Samsung or the YouTube interface. We don't see it happening, but it would be nice. Just like Just Moody says, yeah, there is. It can cost a lot, and it's easy to get into that. But you just have to be careful with that. And the thing that we really see, the big issue, is frustration on the parts of fans not knowing where to go to get their game. And that's a different issue, but that's really the big frustration that we see. And Larry has a great question. Do you think there'll be more free streaming services in the coming months? I don't think necessarily there will be. But given the explosion of people moving to fast services and really Roku and Tubi standing out amongst everyone else, someone might be willing to go into that. So
yeah, something to keep watching for sure. And yeah. I think I share a little bit with June's feelings, because we feel that way about K-State football games. We want to see every one of them, and granted there's not as many, and we have season tickets, so that helps, but we would feel the same way about wanting to watch every single one of our team's games. So
and it's easier when there's 12 or 13 games versus 162.
Right. For sure. Okay, well, let's go on to a different story here, and this one's on Paramount Plus. So a few weeks ago, y'all might remember that we discussed how WBD is rebranding Max back to HBO Max. Well, Paramount Global announced that it's deciding to follow suit with Paramount Plus. So Paramount is changing the name of its premium tier from Paramount Plus with Showtime to simply Paramount Plus Premium. The change is immediate, and you might remember it's exactly what it used to be called before it was rebranded to Paramount Plus with Showtime in the summer of 2023 when they shut down the Showtime streaming service. So why is Paramount doing this? Well, the company recently added a sampling of Showtime content into the Essential or Base tier, And they said, quote, calling the higher tier Paramount Plus Premium reflects broad and diverse offerings across both plan tiers. Showtime remains an important part of Paramount Plus and is still prominently represented on the service. There's been no change in pricing. Essential still costs $7.99 a month and $12.99 a month for premium. And there's no indication that they plan to raise prices either. Its last price hike was last year. So we think this is happening because Paramount is dealing with the same thing that WBD is, brand confusion. According to that Deadline article that I was showing, they said, quote, conceptually, Paramount faced the same dilemma that WBD has with its streaming operation. Showtime long operated its own standalone service, but was combined with Paramount Plus in 2024. That put broad audience CBS shows like Tracker and Matlock directly next to more upscale and targeted fare like Yellow Jackets and Couples Therapy. Although it wasn't quite as awkward as the White Lotus coexisting with 1,000-pound roomies, the reconciliation process has taken time. So, and to make things even more confusing, the channel that also changed its name from Showtime to Paramount Plus with Showtime won't be changing names right now. It'll continue to stay with its name. So just one other thing to keep in mind with this is that the merger between Paramount and Skydance still has not finalized, and maybe this is a sign that it's in the offing, but there's no telling when it will finally come to a close.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think the bigger point is kind of like we were discussing with sports. This is another area where it's confusing for consumers who are just wanting to watch, find their favorite shows. It just makes it even harder, unnecessarily harder.
Absolutely. And I would agree with Space Ghost. I will go back and look at highlights. After watching the game or after being at the game, heck, I'll record games and watch them after being at the game. So to me, I want the game. Highlights are nice, but it's not enough.
And
so.
Just Moody, I agree. Your comment. It's interesting too that ESPN did the same thing, and you wonder how much they spent to come up with these, frankly, just kind of nonsensical brand naming decisions.
Yeah.
Seems like money could have been spent better elsewhere. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I forgot. I'm the next story too. Apologies for that, folks. So this one is interesting. DirecTV is launching more genre packs.
One more for now,
and another one in the works. So possibly. Skinny bundles have grown in popularity over the last few months. DirecTV, ironically enough, or interestingly, is leading the way. You guys probably remember they came out with My Sports in early April for $70. They also have My Entertainment for $35, Mi Español for $35 a month, My News for $40. Streamable reported this week that it appears they may have plans for several more genre packs. And the report is coming from a Reddit thread where users are saying there's metadata pointing to DirecTV launching its My Locals and My Kids skinny bundles. Well, DirecTV officially announced the launch of a My Kids genre pack for $19.99 a month on Thursday. And here are the channels that includes: Baby First TV, Boomerang, Cartoon Network, Discovery Family Channel, Disney Channel, Disney Junior, Disney XD, Nickelodeon, Nick Jr., Nicktoons, and Teen Nick. And DirecTV is also including a Disney Plus basic subscription into the plan. Now, before we get into a possible My Locals genre pack, because that's the other one that people are wondering they might come out with, news came out Thursday that DirecTV and Paramount inked a deal that will add roughly 20 of Paramount's linear networks and all 15 of its major market-owned CBS stations to its genre packs. Now, this does not include all CBS stations, just the owned and operated ones in the largest cities, but it does get CBS Sports into CBS Sports Networks, into the My Sports plan, which does make it a little bit more compelling of an option, although we still think it's overpriced. My Locals could, if that one happens, My Locals could include ABC, Fox, NBC, the CW, Ion, Me TV, My Network TV, and PBS. And we're checking the DirecTV site. You can see it's one there. So it'll be something to watch. Obviously, the channel that's missing from the potential My Locals would be CBS. If you don't live in a market that has an owned and operated station. You could add in a subscription to Paramount Plus to round it out, but depending on the cost of the My Locals, you could be looking at $40 to $50 a month, if not more. And the reason for that is because of retransmission fees. So we would love to see pricing lower for a potential local option, but we don't see it happening. And just one other thing to say on this is that generally we like these moves that DirecTV is making. Some of the plans are too expensive, like the My Sports, but it is moving to a more customized option for people who don't want that bloated cable or premium live TV streaming service. Now, we were hesitant at first when DirecTV launched My Sports, but honestly, we really like the direction it's going in, and we wonder if others might follow suit.
And the elephant in the room there is fuboTV with their skinny bundle of the sports, and that nothing else has come out about that yet. And again, they've said before football season. Well, we're now like 8 weeks away from football season. And so it'll be, at least for college football season, so it'll be interesting to see what they come out with. And that's awesome, James. I was not aware that that was possible on YouTube, watching the college baseball and softball games with no live service. ESPN Plus can be a good option for that, but even being able to watch it live on YouTube without any subscription, that's awesome. So more news on. So good question, Larry, on real numbers on how many subscribers for the genre packs. We discussed that. Gosh, I want to say it was a month, 6 weeks ago in a live stream. At that point, the only numbers that had been out was for the first 2 or 3 months. They were encouraging, but that was really only covered like the first full month of all of the other plans outside of the My Sports plan. We're actually getting ready to work on a video on about DirecTV and their genre packs and the direction that they're going, ironically enough being DirecTV doing it. So we'll be trying to find more numbers on that, but nothing that I have personally seen recently. In more news, for DirecTV, it's moving closer to no longer selling satellite TV in certain areas. Cord Cutters News first reported this on Wednesday, and then Variety ran with it yesterday morning, that it's going to be select areas where they're no longer going to be available. And per Variety, quote, under a trial run, DirecTV is currently experimenting in certain locations with only allowing new subscribers to sign on to its streaming service. The move is targeted at specific zip codes with no explanation as to which ones are impacted, unquote. They have committed to keeping service for current customers, especially those in rural areas, but it's not very surprising to see this move because they've made a market about face to focus heavily on streaming, and we see those that through rebranding to put everything under the DirecTV umbrella. We also see it with rapid expansion of the genre packs, allowing people to get access to pre-selected plans or a pre-selected selection of channels without paying for the networks that they don't want, generally speaking. And overall, we're as we said, overall fans of the genre packs because it does move us a little bit closer to that a la carte pricing and channels that people are saying that they want. Where this ends up is tough to say for now. DirecTV is claiming that it's not permanent. Variety went on to say that a rep for DirecTV stressed that this was not yet a permanent move. And then in select markets, this limited time trial will increase awareness and adoption of our satellite-free streaming service, which has quickly become the preferred solution. And this is all fascinating to watch in light of what's going on with EchoStar, Dish's and Sling's parent company, as they're dealing with continued chatter over bankruptcy issues, and reports have been swirling that the company could be facing that as soon as a week or two from now. And I just saw a headline right before we started that they're not going to be making their July 1 debt payments. And according to Wall Street Journal, EchoStar has, quote, EchoStar has skipped about $500 million in debt interest payments in recent days, starting a countdown that would push the company into default before July if not cured within the bond's grace period. The company said in securities filings that the FCC's threats had effectively frozen our ability to make decisions about how to grow and invest in the Boost mobile business, unquote. And add to that, EchoStar bondholders have actively engaged law firms ahead of any possible action, and things don't look good. In short, if this does happen, it could potentially not bode well for people that need satellite TV, especially those in rural markets, and it makes us increasingly concerned about what could potentially happen with Sling. Generally speaking, we like Sling because it's a more affordable way to get ESPN or Fox Sports. But yeah, I fear that the writing's on the wall. I hope something does work out, especially to protect Sling, but it's tough to say.
I agree with you, Space Ghost, their comment in the chat thread. I don't think it's your age. I think it, in some ways, media companies broke something that was working relatively okay.
Aside from pricing.
Yeah, aside from pricing, and they're cobbling it back together, but there's so much confusion in the process when all that they really needed to do from the start wasn't necessarily to move everything off of cable and on to, Wi-Fi and digital internet streaming, but just give us some more flexibility so that people that don't want sports don't have to pay for, the more expensive cost of having those channels in their plan, for example.
Yeah, and another question, will NBA be on NBC next season? Yes, will, and some games in Peacock. And agreed, Space Ghost, with people losing their jobs, it would reduce competition. Yeah. And that's not something that we necessarily need right now.
Yeah. So on this idea of being able to go one place for what you want, our next story is wondering if could Prime Video end up being that destination, at least for a la carte TV. So come as no surprise to any of you, one of the most common frustrations people have is not being able to get everything that they want to watch in one place. And bundling has helped take care of some of that, but certainly not all of it. And many streamers want something that is as close to a la carte as possible. And we're not there either. So, in an event this week, the head of Prime Video made a statement that it believes it's the solution to
of course it does.
Yeah, to make a la carte TV possible. So what Prime Video has done is allow streamers to put together many of their subscriptions in one place and then centralize payment to Amazon. And the numbers don't lie. Prime Video is gobbling up subscriptions. According to Business Insider, Amazon presented data from Antenna, which is an independent third-party measurement firm, showing that signups through Prime Video channels accounted for 25% of major U.S. subscription streamer signups in the first quarter. That's up from 22% 2 years earlier. About half of signups are direct, and the rest come through app stores and other marketplaces like Roku and YouTube. And that's a sizable number, and one that highlights the move that these big tech giants like Apple and Google and Amazon and Netflix and arguably now Roku are trying to be that place to get TV. There's also the argument that being on Prime Video is worth it for streaming companies. So Warner Brothers Discovery's HBO Max, as an example, lost an estimated 5.1 million subscribers after it left Prime Video in 2021. And then it gained 3 million through Amazon's channels in the first 3 months after it returned in 2022. And just 16% of them were existing HBO Max subscribers. And that also came from that Antenna study. And that's just one example. Reportedly, streaming companies get to keep 50% of the subscription revenue from signups. And Amazon is obviously not making these subscriptions available out of the goodness of its heart. Obviously, it comes down to data. Partners described Amazon as a good overall partner streaming companies described Amazon as a good overall partner that had become more generous in sharing data with them about who's subscribing and what they're watching, and have been giving more promotional real estate, which the partners pay for. And I would say, well, yeah, if you're getting 50% of the sign up then you as a streaming company, if Amazon's getting half, you as a streaming company should get something for that. So long and short of it is Prime Video is really doing this to make more money, seeing the long game of keeping people on its platform to spend. I'm sure that they want to integrate whatever you're streaming with whatever you can buy in the Amazon universe.
For sure.
So it's a win-win for Amazon for sure here. And if it's a win too for Prime Video, because they need to become profitable. Reports are that they will reach profitability at some point this year. And so it just kind of puts it out there. Do streaming companies need Prime Video? And I would think especially some of these more niche ones that are smaller, they probably do. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. And great question in the comments. Bob isn't trolling is saying he's paying $137 a month for Hulu Live. Can't afford it anymore. Understandably, need tips on how to save money. I don't have income anymore. I like to rewatch everything in the past year. What should I do? I'm assuming that there are some add-ons there that you're paying for to get Hulu Live. I would look at primarily what you're rewatching, because that would. My thoughts would be automatically get rid of the live TV if you don't need that, and look at one of the major broadcast platform services like Peacock or Paramount Plus or Hulu.
Yeah. Not Hulu Live, just regular Hulu.
Regular Hulu. DirecTV's My Entertainment, if you don't need sports, could also be a compelling option that would save you $100 a month. Also gives you access to Hulu and Disney Plus content as well as HBO Max content. Those would be my first suggestions if you want live TV. And if you can get locals via an antenna, Sling would also be another good option that would save you $90 a month. Those would be my first suggestions.
Yep, just showing the My Entertainment lineup here quickly. You would get the Disney bundle, basic bundle, that's Disney Plus and Hulu Max with ads, and then all these channels. So again, it doesn't include sports, but to your point, depending on what you're rewatching, that could be a much cheaper solution. Is that's about $35 a month right now, I think. Yeah. So you could save $100 a month potentially, just as one example. Yeah, and with the Paramount agreement that they came to with DirecTV, they've also said that there's no current plans for a price increase on those. So great question. Last story is something that a lot of us feel very specific about. Is strongly about. Thank you. Growing proof that ads are widely accepted by streamers. Many of us don't like ads. Few things rile us up like ads. We work in the advertising industry ourselves, so we get it. And also, streaming began with limited ads, and people, understandably, to a large extent, don't like it. That's obviously no longer the case with, I think, Apple TV Plus being like really the only major platform out there. And I would hesitate to say major, but the only major platform out there that doesn't have an ad-supported plan. Last week we discussed how HBO Max and Prime Video are increasing their ads, and ad creep is inevitable. But that still pales in comparison. So when you're looking at like 6 or 7 minutes per hour versus 15 minutes on linear TV, it still pales in comparison. Well, a new report came out this week from Antenna that further shows more streamers are opting for ad-supported plans when signing up for a service. It's largely, I think, to save money. It says about 2 years ago, ad-supported plans began to come out in earnest. At that time, the research firm came up with 4 different segment profiles. Ad avoiders,
Good comment there, Space Ghost. Ad avoiders, ad engagers, ad managers, and ad oblivious. Ad avoiders is, as you might think, they almost always choose the ad-free plans. Ad engagers is the opposite. They typically choose the ad-supported plan. Ad managers choose both options. And ad oblivious are users who had not yet signed up for a service where they had to make a choice between the two. 2 years ago, 1/3 of the people were ad oblivious. Today, 75% of those who have an option choose the ad-supported plan, and only 11% face a situation where they don't have an option. People who chose both ad-free and ad-supported are also the fastest growing segment, and that's where we would put ourselves. Netflix is the only service we have where we have ad-free. Everything else is ad-supported. What does this all mean? Ads are increasingly prevalent in streaming, and more people are choosing those plans, which again isn't surprising as more people are looking to save money. And almost always, with the deals that come out are almost always on the ad-supported plans, and that's because streaming companies make more money off of those because of the ads. And the recent Antenna report also revealed a few other interesting things of note. Those are that fast platforms and ad-supported plans that are driving streaming to growth to the tune of 11% growth for ad-supported SVODs year over year. And churn is also down, with more than 1 in 3 people who cancel an SVOD returning within 1 year. And I found this interesting. The average churn rate is around 5%. Netflix is reliably typically the lowest or next to lowest at around 2%. And going back to Prime Video, what we were discussing, it pointed to the expansive growth of Prime Video, saying that a whopping 9 out of 10 signups for other services that occurred within Prime Video would not have happened at all if the service wasn't offered by Amazon, which, you know, we used to be Fire Stick users. We're now, we still have one and we test it out and the like, but we're almost entirely Roku. So what does that mean for people that don't use Prime Video? So to sum it up, as we discussed last week from the Nielsen report, streaming is growing and has overtaken cable and broadcast combined. It likely will not always consistently stay that way. And streaming is growing with more looking for value than anything else. And Prime Video is really trying to build itself up to be that one-stop location. And again, to Nicole's point, they're going to be competing with the Googles and the Rokus and the Netflixes and Apple to a certain extent, but I'd say lesser so.
I think the big three are going to be YouTube through Google, and then Prime Video through Amazon and Roku. And I'm glad that Amazon at least will have some competition, because otherwise they're so massive.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Larry. I miss that as well, being able to just have one simple subscription to Hulu, and where they worked together and being able to access a good variety of content from the different networks. Sadly, they saw the money that was possible and just ran with it, making, as again to Nicole's point, taking something that, aside from pricing, wasn't necessarily broken and broke it, and trying to make it better, and for many people making it more confusing, I guess, for lack of a better word. And
it also, speaking of churn being down, reminds me of some things we were talking about last week, that churn, the main reason people cancel a streaming service now is because there isn't enough content on there for them. So back to those early days of Hulu when there was more content there that would keep you there. So we'd like to see the streaming companies get back to that.
Yeah, exactly. And now Hulu is a plan, something that we only subscribe to on a Black Friday deal. If we had to pay more than that, we would not have it. Thanks for your comment, Andy, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Just want to say real quick that we will not be live streaming next Friday, obviously. It's the 4th of July. But we will be back the following Friday, the 11th. And thank you, everyone, to concur with Nicole for spending some time with us today. Stopping by and spending some time with us today. And hope you all have a fun and safe 4th with friends and family, whatever it is that you'll be doing. And return on the 11th with all 10 fingers.
Sounds good. All right, everyone. Take care.
Yes.
Bye.